Good evening, and welcome to Story Hour. I'm tonight's host, Laura Blackwell. My co-host, the marvelous Daniel Marcus, started Story Hour just about 4 years ago to help people stay connected by telling each other stories during the pandemic, just gathering around the virtual campfire. And it's been so much fun. Here we are, 4 years later, still coming back. So we'd also like to thank SIFWA for the Givers Fund grant, which is helping us keep the virtual campfire burning. Thank you very much, SIFWA. We love you. Welcome to those of you returning, and welcome also to those of you here for the first time. As always, we have two fabulous writers of the fantastic reading from their own work. Tonight's readers are Ben Francisco and Maya Beck. If you're here on Zoom, feel free to join in on the chat if you like. If you're here on Facebook, we are so glad, and please don't be mad at us, but we may not see your messages until later. But I promise you we will take them very seriously and respond. Okay. So our first reader tonight is Ben Francisco. Ben Francisco's fiction ranges from magic realism to space opera and has been known to feature oversexed ghosts, depressed precognitive psychics, and pantheistic vampire aliens who reproduce like moss. Ben's short stories have won the Indiana Review Fiction Prize, been featured in several year's best LGBTQ fiction anthologies, and been shortlisted for several year's best science fiction and fantasy anthologies. Their stories have been published in Strange Horizons, Fireside Fiction, Podcastle, Lady Churchill's Rosebud Wristlet, From Macho to Mariposa, New Gay Latino Fiction, It Gets Even Better, Stories of Queer Possibility, and others. Their first novel, Val Vega, Secret Ambassador of Earth, a young adult Latinx space adventure, debuted in February 2024. Ben lives in Brooklyn with their partner and has devoted much of their copious spare time to working for nonprofits, advancing LGBTQ rights, immigrant rights, and racial and gender justice. Visit them at benfrancisco.net. Ben, welcome to Story Hour.
Thank you, Laura. It's great to be here.
It is.
I appreciate that you laughed at that. Copious spare time is like a little inside joke with myself. That's in most of my bios. I feel like you're the first person to deliver that just perfectly.
I read the rest of your bio. I could tell you did not have copious spare time.
You know, I don't know anyone with copious spare time, especially not writers.
So, what have you got for us tonight?
Well, first, thank you for shouting out my novel, Val Vega, Secret Ambassador of Earth. Beautiful cover by Luis Carlos Barragan, available pretty much anywhere books are sold, paperback or ebook. Tonight I'm going to read a story called Brincando Charcos, or Jumping Puddles. It was published in Strange Horizons, and they did, a few months ago, Strange Horizons did a special Caribbean speculative fiction issue featuring stories by Caribbean writers and Caribbean diaspora writers. It's a really beautiful issue with several beautiful stories and poems that I encourage everyone to check out. And I find knowing that it was a Caribbean special issue when I submitted, I found it actually sort of freed me up to maybe go places with a story that I wouldn't otherwise go. So I will just jump right in. Brincando Charcos. I tell Mateo to meet me at a wine bar. It's a quiet, low-key spot. Ideal for first dates because it's easy to make a speedy exit if the red flags start flying. Or worse, if the men in blue come knocking. It's been over an hour, and we're on our second glass of wine when I realize there are no red flags. He's not just monologuing, he's asking me questions too. This is actually a good first date. And when was the last time that ever happened for me? But I can't help but worry that the puddles from this afternoon's shower may have dried up. Anytime there's a pause in the conversation, my head swivels to the exit to check for the men in blue. After we finish our wine, we leave and start wandering around the village. I tell him about losing my abuela a few months ago, how I really have 3 mothers and she was one of them. He tells me about losing his mother last year, how after she died, he knew there was nothing left for him in Caracas. He talks about how living in New York these past few months has been hard and wonderful and exhausting. We toggle between English and Spanish. He gets flustered when he stumbles over an English word, and I confess I'm embarrassed when shades of a gringo accent creep into my New Yorican Spanish. I love the easiness of our sudden vulnerability, how we're skipping over all the small talk and going right to the real talk. We cross the street, and my hand grazes his, then grasps it. Suddenly, finally, my body is pressed against his body, my lips against his lips. We kiss, gently at first, then with a crescendo of passion. I only half notice when the car horns start honking and the cranky New Yorkers start shouting. The light must have changed. This kiss is a time warp, converting minutes into seconds. We pull apart, laughing and smiling at each other. I think the cars are annoyed at us, Javier, he says to me as we shuffle back to the sidewalk. The humans too, I say. I don't remember the last time someone kissed me like that. The last time joy felt feasible. Then, as we turn the corner, I see them approaching from the corner of my eye. Two men in blue suits walking briskly toward us, their eyes cold with calm determination. Why do they have to show up now, just when the moment had edged its way toward perfection? My mother was right. They always show up at times like this. Coño, I say, and turn toward Mateo. Oye, I can't explain, but we have to go fast. What? Pero why? I yank him in the other direction. His head turns toward the men in blue, and immediately his eyes widen. You're right. We need to run. For a moment, I'm disoriented. The men in blue look like ordinary men unless you know to look for them. Mateo must think they're bill collectors or something. He must have gambling debts. I knew that red flag had to be hitting somewhere. But the men in blue are less than a block away, and now they've broken into a run. Gambler or not, Mateo doesn't deserve their attention just because of one date with me. This way, I say, running back toward Christopher Street. There's a block where the street's uneven, where there may still be a puddle or two. We race down 6th Avenue, side by side. Between breaths, I say, we need a puddle, at the same time as he says, necesitamos un charco, the same words in two languages. Our faces wrinkle at each other in confusion, but we barely break our stride. As we turn onto Christopher Street, there it is, a charco, a long stretch of shallow waters where the sidewalk meets the street. I point at it, and Mateo nods. Our sneakers pound the concrete in unison as we race toward the puddle. The men in blue only a few strides behind us. Together we leap through the air and into the puddle. I close my eyes as the familiar wetness of muddy waters seeps into my hair, my jeans, my skin. It was my mother, my abuela, and my tia who taught me about the men in blue and about the puddles. We were cleaning up the kitchen when they first explained it to me. You have to look at the charco sideways so you can see how it's catching the light, my mother said, passing me a handful of forks. Then you can see where it will take you. The key is to jump in with your feet flat, my abuela said, scrubbing a pot with gloved hands. None of this business of dipping a toe in first. Feet flat o nunca funciona. Tia Nita was freshening up a vase of flowers, cutting the stems and stripping out the dead parts. She looked up from the flowers and shook her head. What she really means is you have to jump into the puddle as if it were the deep end of the swimming pool. You have to know in your corazón that the puddle contains waters that run deeper than the ground. We climb out the other side of the puddle, pulling ourselves up with our forearms. Coming back out is always the hardest part. Palm trees line the sidewalk, and the seductive scent of chicharrones drifts from a food truck down the street. At the end of the block, I see the entrance to La Yupi. What a relief we came out somewhere familiar. We were going so fast, I didn't even have a chance to look where the puddle would take us. ¿Dónde estamos? Mateo asks, wiping the wetness out of his hair. We're both sopping wet. Charcos may get you there fast, but they're not the cleanest way to travel. San Juan, I say. I went to school here for a few years. He takes off his shirt and wrings out the water. Where did you learn about the Charcos? And the men in blue? He's flaquito, his dark brown skin showing just a hint of abs. covered with droplets from our journey through the puddle. My mother, I say, after a too long pause, realizing I should stop staring and say something. And from my abuela and tia, though my tia was the one who actually was good at explaining things. My mommy and tia's taught me too, he says. I've never been to San Juan. I see a bus coming from a few blocks away, the one that goes to Condado. We could go dancing, I say. Que si, he says. I smile and lead him toward the guagua, jogging to catch it. The bus driver squints at our dripping clothes and the wet dollar bills from my pocket, but lets us on with a resigned wave. I forgot to put my wallet back in my waterproof case, but at least my phone was tucked away, just like Abuela always taught me. I bring him to Scandalo. There's a blackout on the block, but the drag queens take the party into the street, performing their show in the headlights of a Toyota, the car radio blaring Shakira and Beyonce. They direct the flow, sprawling dramatically on the hood of a car. Oops. Sorry, I moved up my video there for a moment. Sometimes sprawling dramatically on the hood of a car before it passes by. After the show, everyone stays and dances in the street. Mateo is a much better dancer than me. When Elvis Crespo comes on, we merengue. He takes the position of following, but really he's the one that's guiding me, making me look like a much better dancer than I am. I keep looking up and down the street for the men in blue, but there's no sign of them, even though this seems like exactly where they'd come looking. After the clubs close, we walk down the street, hands intertwined. We should stay here tonight, Mateo says. I have this app where you can find cheap hotels at the last minute. We should get home, I say, before the charcos dry up in the morning. Then come back to my place, he says, squeezing my hand, after we get back to the other side. Maybe next time, I say, squeezing back. It's been such a magical night. Don't you want to? It has been magical, I say. That's why I want to wait. Sometimes it's nice to build up a little anticipation. Okay, he says, smiling wryly. Con mucha anticipación, entonces. But I know he knows I'm holding something back. I was homesick from school, and Abuela was taking care of me while Mommy and Anita were at work. She sat down next to me on the bed and gave me a bowl of her homemade chicken soup. I sat up and took the soup, the bowl warming my hands. Abuela, when did you learn about the Charcos? Was it when you came to New York? I know, mijo. Our family has been Brincando Charcos long before your abuelo and I came to New York, long before the men in blue came. My grandmother used to jump the puddle from Ponce to Chalco to visit her sister. But we used to mostly stay on the island. Then my brother died, and there were no jobs, and the men in blue were everywhere. So our family jumped a puddle that took us further than we'd ever gone before. We thought things could be different here, but so many things were just the same, even more men in blue than on the island. Do they chase us because we jumped the puddles? My abuela touched my forehead. Maybe they're jealous that we can jump the puddles, but that's not the only reason why. They chase us because we didn't just lie down and surrender when they first came. Because no matter what they do, we keep on existing. For our seventh date, Mateo and I jump to a charco on 119th Street and come out the other side in Orlando. We go to Universal, the rush of the roller coasters drying our wet clothes. We go on the Spider-Man ride 4 times. The line is long, but making out makes the wait go faster. Huepa, he yells as we climb out of the roller coaster after ride number 4. Huepa was the first Puerto Rican word I taught him. That ride es una vaina, I say. Now you understand lo que es una vaina, he says. We're developing a language made for two. A mixture of English and Puerto Rican Spanish and Venezuelan Spanish and newly invented phrases that only make sense to us. We feast at a Colombian restaurant for dinner, then check in at a hotel downtown Orlando. We've been dating over a month now and still haven't spent the night together. But I promised Mateo that tonight the anticipation would reach its end. We kiss and cuddle under the sheets. He takes off his shirt and I kiss his neck, his chest, his shoulders. There's a small scar on his left shoulder the shape of a half moon. I give it a soft kiss and then keep working my way down his back. He slides off his underwear. revealing the most magnificent butt my eyes have ever seen. He turns around and gives me a wry look, gesturing at my shirt. I'm still fully dressed. I start to strip, but can't make it past my underwear. Sorry, I say, and climb out of bed and walk over to the window, scanning the streets below. Gases. Just checking for the men in blue, I say. You never know when they'll show up. I know, Mateo says, joining me at the window. When I was growing up on the 17th floor, mi madre taught me to always look out the window to check for them before I turned out the light. But these streets look pretty empty to me. I'm sorry, I say. I get all in my head and you must think I'm ridiculous. No, he says. I think I've met a beautiful man. One who can jump through the charcos with me and who knows the world is not an easy place. And who needs a little time. Luckily, I have a gift for patience. Come back to bed. We can cuddle some more. That sounds perfect, I say, and hope the men in blue will come for the quiet tear that's running down my cheek. We were doing the laundry together, and my mommy, abuela, and Tia were warning me about the men in blue. Abuela was folding shirts. Their suits are always blue and stiff from too much starch. Their faces are serious, and they always look at you like you've done something wrong. My mother was pulling clothes out of the washer and throwing them in the dryer. When you're laughing, smiling, when you're happy, that's when they'll catch you by surprise. That's when you have to be on the lookout. Hay que sacudir cada uno, my abuela reminded my mother. If you don't shake every piece, they don't dry evenly. She turned to me and said, I've been brigando with the men in blue for longer than your mother. It's not just when you're happy. They can come for your anger. They can come for your fear. And when you lose someone, they can even come for your luto. I was folding clothes with abuela, but half the time she was redoing the ones I did. But then they could come at any time. I said, how do I stay safe? Church is safe, my mother said, giving a pair of jeans a passive-aggressive shake. And go to confession at least once a week. That helps keep them away. Abuela grabbed a sloppily folded shirt from me and refolded it into a perfect square in 2 shift motions. Even that may not be enough. Always look over your shoulder, and always stay close to a charcoal. Ben, Javi, Tia Anna said to me, passing me a basket of folded clothes and picking up another. Help me bring these to the bedroom. I followed her into the bedroom with my basket. We sat together on the bed, placing piles of clothes into the drawers. Your abuela's been through so much, your mother too, things we may never understand, she said softly. She was the youngest of the 3 of them, only 8 years older than me. They have so much to teach us about the Charcos, about our heritage, pero don't let everything they say weigh you down. What do you mean? Hey, Seijo, she said, but it's not just the men in blue on the streets that are dangerous. Sometimes the worst men in blue are the ones who get in your head. Then, I say, dragging Mateo down Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn. There was a deluge of rain all afternoon, and now there are puddles everywhere. Okay, Javier, okay, he says. We've been dating almost 3 months now. This one, I say, and yank him into a puddle before he has a chance to see where it will take us. We climb out the other side, dripping water onto the sidewalk, the sound of traffic and honking horns nearby. Mateo wipes the water from his eyes, laughing. Where did you even take? He looks up at the cream-colored building towering over us and falls suddenly silent, his mouth a flat line, an expression I've never seen on his face before. I found a charco to Caracas, I say, my tone cautiously upbeat. I know where we are, Mateo says. I do not know why, Javier. I thought you'd like it. We went to San Juan. I thought we could see where you're from, too. He looks up at the sky as if it has betrayed him. Have you not listened to anything I've told you these past few months? I've been so patient with you. So patient. And this is what you give me? Do you think that you're the only one struggling with monsters in your head? You've never been caught by the men in blue, have you? No, I say my abuela, but I thought you understood. He stands over at the puddle we came through, staring down at his reflection. But you understand nothing. Without another word and without me, he jumps back into the puddle, leaving me alone in a city I have never known. I was out in Chelsea at a party with friends when I first saw the men in blue for myself. Even after all the warnings of my abuela and my mother and Anita, I never imagined they'd be so terrifying. It was the stoniness of their faces, their implacable relentlessness. I ran the moment I saw them. It was late by the time I got home, and Abuela was the only one awake. Sometimes it seemed like she never slept. She made us chamomile tea. We sat in the shadows of the living room, and I told her what had happened, how scared I was. You should be scared, she said. What happens? I asked. What happens if they catch you? Abuela leaned forward in her chair. It was a bright sunny day, not a puddle in sight. I knew we should never have had a protest on such a sunny day, but it was not my decision to make, and it was too important for us to miss. Your abuelo and I were there, in the plaza, chanting with everyone. For the first hour, it seemed like everything was going to be all right. But then they were there, the men in blue. More of them than I'd ever seen before. There were no puddles to jump. Many of us were captured. For others, it was worse. My cell was in a basement. Only one tiny window by the ceiling. The floor was cold and there was no bed. They only fed us bread and water. I thought of trying to make a puddle to escape, but that was impossible. Only rainwater can make a puddle. After 9 days and 9 nights of that cold, hard floor, a storm came. I tried to reach out the tiny window and make a cup of my hands to catch the water, but it was too high up, just a few inches out of reach. So I took off my shoe and held it out to the window, catching the rainwater in my heel. It took 17 shoes of rain to make a proper puddle. I made it out. Most are not so lucky. It hasn't rained for a week, so the locus of my anxieties vacillates between checking every corner for the men in blue and checking my phone to see if Mateo has texted me. He hasn't called or texted in nearly 2 weeks. I call Mommy in tears. After I tell her about Mateo, about the men in blue chasing us, about San Juan and Caracas, she says, have you been to church? Have you confessed? Hi, Mommy, you know I don't do that anymore. A few years ago, I was so anxious when I came out to her, but she barely blinked. Just said she'd love me the same as always, just like God would. It probably helped that Anita had come out a few years before that. Then confess to Mateo, she says simply. She has an astonishing dexterity for transposing her Catholic edicts onto my queer life with no concern for any contradictions. I don't think it works that way, Mommy, I say. We hang up and I call Tia Anita. I tell her everything, even the part about how Mateo and I still haven't had sex. You messed up, she says. You've got to own that. Also, flowers never hurt. There's a good florist on 116th Street. She doesn't offer much more than that. I wish I could call my abuela too. A few years ago, the morning of my graduation, we all met at Anita's house. She had her own place by then, a house in Queens with her partner and 2 friends. I walked out to the back and found the 3 of them setting up tables, decorating the patio with balloons and a big sign that said, Felicidades! I looked up at the cloudless sky. It was only a few months after my own first encounter with the men in blue. Maybe we should cancel the party, I say. If anything happens, there's not a single charco in the street. Pero no, my mother said. This is your special day. The Anita was adding baby's breath to the floral arrangements. Ike, we just postpone your graduation because it happens to be sunny? Abuela adjusted a tablecloth, so it was draped over the table with just perfect symmetry. Careful is important, yes, but caring matters more. And she kissed me on the cheek. It still hasn't rained when I ring Mateo's bell at his building in Brooklyn. There's no answer, but his intercom is always broken, so that doesn't mean anything. Maybe he's making his way down 4 flights of stairs. I put my bags down while I wait, wipe the sweat from my palms. A few minutes later, he opens the door. You are persistent, Javier. I am, I say, and I'm sorry. On our very first date, you said you could never go back to Caracas. I thought you were, no say, using hyperbole or something, but I should have listened. I should have paid more attention, the way you always do. True, he says, gesturing at the shopping bags at my feet. And what is all this? I come bearing gifts and lessons from all three of my mothers, I say. I pull out the flowers and hand them to him. These are for my tia Nita. How kind of your tia to get me flowers, he says, but for the first time a half smile makes its way onto his face. I mean, they're from me, but she taught me everything about flowers. This isn't just a bouquet they had pre-made. I chose every flower myself. Anita taught me it's always important to appreciate the little beauties in life. And she literally told me I should get you flowers. He sniffs the flowers and says, your tia is very sabia. And from your mommy? A confession, I say. It was never about building anticipation. I liked you too much, and that was terrifying. I'm glad you finally said it aloud. He looks down at the piles of remaining shopping bags. And the rest? All the ingredients for my abuela's chicken soup. She taught me we always had to take care of each other, and to always mind the details. Bueno, with gifts from all three of your mothers, you've won the right to entry. But no promises. We catch up on the past couple weeks while I chop vegetables for the soup. It's strained at first, but slowly we find our rhythm again, that natural ease we had with each other. You know, he says, the sun is still shining. The men in blue could come any moment, and there are no charcos offering refuge. Yeah, I say, dropping the last bit of culantro into the pot. The aroma of chicken broth fills the whole studio. It's like the men in blue are out there and they're after us, but sometimes I can't tell when they're really coming and when they're just up in my head. Yes, he says, his tone gentle. That's the hard part. I leap into him with a kiss. His mouth is a portal that's wetter and warmer than any charco I have ever traveled.
And that was lovely.
Thank you, Laura. It's a fun one to read aloud.
Ah,
I
you
did
do it
also like
beautifully. And
you.
I love the character voice for Javier. I kept just wanting to corner those two and I don't know, set up a meet cute for them all over again. They were such an adorable couple.
They're very sweet. It's
But
the
they bring that
Brincando
out in you.
Charcos is a is an expression in Spanish for that means jumping puddles, but people say it the way like British folks will say crossing the pond to go from the UK
Mm.
to the States, and sort of Brincando Charcos is a similar expression in Spanish. You say Brinqueo Charco to mean I came from Puerto Rico to New York.
Oh,
So that's
interesting.
what sort of that expression, like I sort of thought, what if we really could jump through puddles? And that was the
Right.
that led to the story.
And also the gulf between their understanding,
Yeah.
which is really the most important one. Oh, I loved that. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Ah, it is our custom at Story Hour to just take a moment after the first reader is finished to just finish soaking the story in and ready ourselves for another one. Everybody, that was Ben Francisco on their Story Hour debut. Not the last time they will be here, I hope. Thank you. Our next reader tonight is Maya Beck. Maya Beck is a broke blipster, lapsed Muslim, Animanga old head, demi-pan demi-girl, pastel core bunny mom, socially anxious social justice bard, and speculative fiction writer, currently finishing a middle grade novel about witchcraft and marronage as part of the UCSD Literature MFA. Their work has been published by venues including Strange Horizons, Pank, Mizna, and Nat Brute, and they have participated in writing programs including the Clarion Workshop, Tin House, Kimbilio, and Vona. Born on Kumeyaay land with a Motor City mom, Windy City dad, Black lineage, Maya is a blended descendant of displaced Bantu, Hausa, and Fulani peoples. They can be found lurking under Minimin at raru.re on Mastodon, Maya the Being on Blue Sky Social, a.maybeing on Instagram, at Maya A. Beck at gmail.com, and their website, mayabeck.com. Maya, welcome to Story Hour.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. Let's see. I guess I think the story will be a bit long, so I'll jump into it and may have to read a bit fast. And
No, just give the story the time it needs. If we go a minute over, okay.
Okay. So as a bit of a heads up, I've been recently obsessed with putting lyrics into my music, into my stories, right? So this is like a musical short story, and that is part of like the speculative saying. So it's currently unpublished, but it's called Choreography in a Pill. Okay. Robert got down on one knee. It was admittedly a good time and place. The columns of the art center framed him and Chloe standing on the balcony walkway. A rose gold sunset shone overhead and the whole of Los Angeles lay sprawled below. Plus, all their friends were here for the trip. Me and the rest of the bioethics cohort were picnicking on the Central's hillside. So yes, it was cute, and yes, I was happy for them, but still my heart and breath jittered as I realized what was coming next. Robert began to sing. We've come from finally to always, from can we meet tomorrow to can we be together till the end. I froze, scanning the crowd for cues. His closest friends rose from the grass and blankets and walked down to kneel near Robert. Those closest to him established the melody by strumming or bowing or plucking. The rest of us sang harmony back up. From waiting for the one to come to walking with that one to build a romance for forever and a day. I hummed, still holding my half-eaten lunch piece, pita. I wasn't super close to either of them, but I was still a colleague existing within 10 feet of the major life event. It would be rude to run away now. Everyone else stood, so I guess they were all done eating? I scrambled to put away my meal and stand too. The photographers up here clicked their cameras in time, establishing a beat. We've come from finally to always, from when can I see you again to can we live together if you'd like. Everyone around me settled into couples, one to dip and one to be dipped, one to twirl and one to be twirled. The pairs lined up, one on each side of the main singles, and shit, I need to couple up too. Jackson had been sitting near me, and he reached for my hand, but expecting me to suddenly dance with someone else's boyfriend was too much. The last time I attempted a partner dance with a stranger was in middle school. I skipped high school prom. Proposals, dating, marriage, romance, all of that is miles away from my life. The only thing keeping me here was societal obligation. From puppy love and butterflies to a passion, dedication, intimacy, love forever and a day. I mimed holding hands, and we blended in with the other couples for a while. Just a while. Soon I tripped, stepped on his foot, flinched from his touch, stood confused too long before realizing we were supposed to spin, and I could tell he was frustrated. I almost pulled Jackson down with me. His long legs tripped the couple near us and almost set off a chain reaction of dancers domino falling, pair by pair, until half the review was gone. But the other couple recovered quickly enough. I think they were actually dating, and the rest turned and swayed in two symmetric rows for Robert and Chloe to pass between while holding hands. Robert and Chloe danced up the hill and back down to the spot where the number began. From finally to always, from well, I think I love you too. Now I know I love you. Will you marry me? Robert knelt again. This time he held up a tiny pink ring box while holding a clear suspended note. Why, yes, of course, my love, I will. Chloe resolved the melody with an unsteady voice, cupping cherry cheeks and laughing and jumping. The music petered off, thank God, as the crowd surrounded the couple to cheer and congratulate them. I clapped and cheered with everyone else, my eyes welling up with joy for them and shame for myself. I know, this isn't about me. I'll lie about the reason for these tears if I have to. But still, my body burned hot from the neck up, the flames of failure singeing me inside. When it grew to be too much, when I thought I might vomit, I slipped away to the art central restroom, where I could let myself dry heave and cry it out alone in the storm. I can't go on like this. So, I do not know how, this is aside from the story, I don't know how you're supposed to say like the asterisk things, but time passes. Okay, Corey social anxiety disorder. Dr. Winston handed me a brochure with the diagnosis on its cover. I didn't look up even as I accepted the folded paper with both hands and placed it on my lap. Have you heard of it? Yeah. I stared at the smiling white folks on the dumb brochure, only peripherally aware of the rest of the browns and blues of the college council office. It's like those special ed kids who have to take rehearsal classes because they can't read the social cues. Many kids with CAD benefit from special education, yes, but CAD is a spectrum, including many kinds of mirror neuron deficiencies and sympathetic dysfunctions. Deficiencies and dysfunctions? It stung to hear him confirm that something was indeed wrong with me. I mean, of course, whoever heard of a black girl too awkward for dance numbers? This whole appointment felt almost as painful as ruining the proposal. Neither of my parents was a fan of therapy, so I was failing them by even needing to be here. The counselor continued. Rehearsal classes are often recommended for young children, but I believe you would most benefit from a combined treatment of medication and exposure therapy. Exposure, I said. The blood left my body. I sat there thin and cold and empty. I looked up at Dr. Winson, a soft-voiced, white-bearded, tweed-sweatered man. He smiled back, just as I could no longer hold eye contact. Yes, exposure therapy. We're going to give you assignments. It sounds like you're a stellar student, Noella. I just know you can master social skills as well. So I started taking in the pills as soon as the pharmacy handed me the first little childproof bottle, but it took a while to schedule the exposure part of the treatment. First, I had to survive finals week, and then it was time for all the risk kids to go to Cancun and Key West and Vegas while I went back to my family in boring old San Bernardino. I usually spent holidays with a father who'd see that any emotion that dared interrupt his life, a mother deathly afraid of the things that stray feelings might reveal, a stoic older brother, a wallflower older sister, and a smooth younger brother who was the only one perfectly normal. But they were a comfort zone that I had to leave. No, I would stay on campus this year. I was an adult now. The easy solution would be to return to the church for practice. But those spirituals and hymns weren't spontaneous enough to challenge me. I grew up with those songs and still knew every lyric and gesture, even if I no longer practiced. No, instead I trusted that there was always a number to join any given park on any given weekend. Public spaces were perfect for inconspicuously singing and dancing support. It only took an hour of Sunday reading in the park grass before I heard the horns of a big band-inspired birthday number. A family maybe 4 times as big and 10 times as loud as mine was celebrating a joint birthday in a nearby pavilion. They brought 2 seat cakes, 3 pinatas, a bounce house, barbecue. The world goes round so fast with you, so fun time flies, we're glad to have you. The year comes round right back to you. The record spins, we're here again, happy birthday. It was simple, maybe one of those Harlem birthday songs. The voices alternated with more freewheeling instrumentals. And then the kids in the bounce house sing it one, and then the dads and the uncles at the park grill stations, and now the aunties and cousins trolling and swinging their skirts. I think those parts of the song and dance were family only, too. Nothing for me to join. So quietly, I sang along, happy birthday. That much I knew to do. But this one guy who'd been talking through the park just whipped his bongos off his back and jumped into the family band. How are people so confident? I could never be one of those people who carry an instrument. Happy birthday. Most bystanders joined the number only as they passed it, singing and dancing while in proximity, but returning to their own concerns once far from the music. There were a couple of cute elementary kids who joined hands and danced over, repeating the lyrics in rounds. They were invited to the bounce house and offered cake. I guess that's the etiquette for kids? It would be creepy for an adult to get that close, right? So I laid in the grass with my book, softly singing harmony into the song ended. Happy birthday. That counts as joining, right? I asked Dr. Winson at our next appointment. I didn't want to get in the way too much, but that's a start, right? The next number to erupt near me was in a co-op parking lot. I walked through the sliding doors with a tote in each hand, right into melancholy chamber folk performance. Hold this ode to my father's back. Sunborn barrel of the Tulare County sky, sloop to scoop the soil of this land, this stolen land. The singer was a brown young man with dark glossy hair, probably indigenous or Latino, absolutely gorgeous and probably gay. He walked between the cars, strumming ukulele, half the parking lot with wore tie-dyes and Baja jackets, while half wore polos and activewear. They hummed and harmonized as they placed groceries in backseats or swung carts out of the corrals, few humming or bowing or drumming along. I ask, is this reality? I've torn that feudal fealty to realty. How did people dance to sad indie music like this? Did people dance to it? There were no lines or couples or routines, just a drumming and a swaying like those in church kindergarten. I found myself humming among a cluster of crunchy moms and granola children, clapping and stomping. My own hands were too full of clap, so I needed an aesthetically pleasing place to put my groceries down, but I couldn't find one, so all this owed to my mother's hands, worn anointed by the rose of olive trees you planted, scarred and salted by this bitter land, this stolen land. The singer reaches Subaru and strums slower now, sitting on its bumper. I feel for him, though. It looks like he's torn about becoming a real estate agent, right? I ask, have I made you proud? Have I made you proud? Sorry, have I made you proud? The land on which you toiled, I own it now. He put his instrument away. I don't believe in ownership, I own it now. There was clapping and bowing and praise and introductions that lasted even after the lead single drove off. I know that people sometimes got job opportunities from these kinds of post-song networking circles, but I hurried to my bus stop. I was so sleep-drained and my showboat was melting. But in retrospect, maybe that kind of response is bad in the long run, right? I asked Dr. Winson. I should probably be practicing networking too. School returned, and exposure therapy became harder to practice. I ducked out of the first review of the new semester, given that it was my floor of the gold storm, singing one of those "it's the weekend, hey, 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 let's go clubbing" type of pop numbers. The halls rang with mezzos and sopranos. Even my roommate Krista sang along to see me about our shared space, perfecting her outfit. I, meanwhile, lay on my bed wearing soundproof headphones, face down on a pillow. The song was so foreign to my existence that it made my head ache and my eyes waddle. Sometimes numbers remind me of what I haven't or won't experience, and I get too sad to perform. I know, narcissistic, right? I envied those who could live inside pop songs like that, folks who felt welcome to the lyrics and met others through its sentiments. Pop music was easy to learn, after all, easier than hymns, but it would be harder to believe in pop than in God. The next number I witnessed was courtesy of a group of Cheadle students, the singingest of all majors, carrying huge poster board playing cards and marching into the grassy quad in front of the dorms. Cheadle students were always performing, but who knew if this was practice, improv, or just fun? They were inviting participants to join them, so why not? I left a bookmark in the final chapter of my pop neuropsychology book and stepped down from the hammock. Only once I was too close to back out did I realize that the poster boards were card-themed dating profiles, with windows cut out to frame their faces. They got everyone to circle up. Cheadle students forming an inner circle and facing us participants in the outer circle. And only after I joined that outer circle did I spot the cameraman. And a real camera too, one of those chest-mounted stabilized things and not just a smartphone. A recorded partner dance? I gotta run. But then someone pressed play on the boombox. Swipe, swap, quick, swat. Wait, who was that? Swipe, switch, sweep. Wait, come back to me. I froze. I didn't see a lead single principal dancer to follow. Then it hit me that I need to mirror the Cheadle student facing me. So I did the monkey, the twist, the mashed potato, whatever they did. Swipe, swoon, sweep, creep. Sweep. Oh my God, I made this a tongue twister. Swipe, swoon, keep, sweep. You're the one for me. Swipe, sweep, still, glass. Please give me a chance. The Cheadle kids shuffled themselves, spinning, switching places, occasionally trading their profile cards, even though the cards have their names, ages, rank, and suite. Was I talking to Joseph then, or was I talking to Joseph now? They moved so fast. Joseph shuffled away, and now he's facing Jamal, a black male Cheadle kid. I didn't know such people existed. Swipe, stack, still. Oh shit. Is this really it? Just as I felt I understood the dance, the dating profile tutor students all rolled over and pretend exhausted, collapsing on the grass. Is dating just a deck of cards? Is love just matching lucky hands I'm folding? Is it over? Most of the participants left. I circled the fallen cards, wondering when they would reawaken. I was leaning over Jamal when the card suddenly jumped up and ran off in whatever chaotic direction. The suddenness knocked me to my behind, but Jamal offered me a hand to help me up. What's your name? He asked. Noella. Jamal? I glanced at the card he carried. Yeah. Jamal wore a clarinet case on his back, a less common instrument, so he's more likely to be talented than simply extroverted, and probably a little weird. Can I give you a hug? He asked. Huh? Why? Because I see you around a lot, and you're usually alone. Huh. This was almost certainly an act of pity, but still, I hugged him. It felt like the first hug I'd had since transferring over from community college. I expected a whelp goodbye as I pulled away, but he asked, "Are you free after this?" I wasn't. I had textbooks to buy, syllabi to read through, introductions to review, class schedules to finalize. But a normal student could choose to be carefree too. I could do that too, choose not to care. Yeah, I fibbed. Why are you asking? We wandered through downtown, so time skip. We wandered through downtown, the plazas and shopping arcades and cafes with charcoal ice cream. Jamal walked the rim of a water fountain, humming in a way that got passers-by attentive and attuned. He looked ready to belt out something grand, and they felt ready to join in. Please don't, I leaned over and murmured. Just trying to help? Jamal hopped down from the fountain. The feeling of a looming review dissipated. Joe, that's not that scary. Not for you. I just can't believe you've never kicked off a number. Everyone deserves to be the star sometimes. I have been a star performer, I said, but I didn't tell him it was only for private indoors family celebrations. And time skip. Especially, yes, Dan, Jamal continued, that rule is good to live by. No, that rule is just good to live by. We talked over plates of cashew and pepper on a red checkered cloth table, just big enough for two. The pills must have been working well because I successfully floored it once or twice. Yeah? Accept the other person's suggestion and build on it, he concluded. I still can't believe you. Raising my hand knocked the wobbly table into a different sort of slant. I had to struggle to stop the plates from sliding. Sorry. I got you. Jamal caught both glasses with his hand, held the table steady with his knee. I still can't believe you consider yourself to be shy, I said. He laughed. Somebody lamented in the distance, a gravelly and bluesy song too far to join. And how does anyone know? How do people understand anything not explicitly said? We lay side by side and facing the stars, our backs on the rough roof of the philosophy building. The conversation that began in the quad still hadn't ended. Intuition, instinct, synchrony, sympathy, vibes. It's built into humans, all animals, Jamal said. I considered telling him that I had a manufacturing defect. But no, my mind wandered to the romantic movie scenes where a character leans towards the love interest, closes their eyes in acceptance, pulses their lips. How do they know? Or is that another one of the lies films tell? Even you, Jamal laid on his side and addressed me, his eyes full of softness, just like I've seen in the movies. You're human. Bodies know things that minds can't be into. He inched close enough for me to disappoint him, close enough to flatter me, close enough for me to shame my parents, close enough to feel his warmth in. That night, I crawled under the thin seats of the dorm room bed, my body still sore in ways that kept my insomniac brain churning. It was a relief to be rid of my virginity, probably, but would sex always be that uncomfortable? And I think I disagreed with some of my body's reactions. I probably didn't mean every yes that I spoke. My phone glowed before my face as I stared at my messages, because why hadn't Jamal responded to my one text? He said he wanted my name and number. Finally, a text popped up. Wrong number, it said. I put my phone down. The room around me was night black, but seemed to grow larger then smaller around my drowsy body. I went home after dinner, Joe, I told Dr. Winston. I know it's stupid to practice abstinence until marriage, but that's just how I was raised, you know? On 2 pills, I felt no regret. I felt normal. I became less egoed and more receptive, less in my head and more vessel for reality pour into. This smiling, functional, unselfish Noella laughed more easily around the corner, chatted with acquaintances in the cafeteria, and sang along to any playing radio station. I could yes and to Krista, who laughed and concluded, "You're more chill than I thought." She invited me to an upcoming house party that she and her girlfriends would attend, and a group large enough to feel safe. She set a black jacket on my shoulders to add edge to my best effort at Friday wear, and the 7 of us crammed into 2 taxis, already so intimately touching that I seemed to be flowing into these other girls who flowed into me. The driver's radio played songs we all knew. All the girls with ass, every single baddie. All the bitches were back, grown and sexy fatties. We rode the beat through the ride and ran to the hip-hop blasting at the party. I could feel the whole room. My body filled the whole room. There was lust, cageiness, all kinds of sizing up. Does he think he's hotter than me? Is he looking my way? Are they someone I can be seen in public with? Are they someone I can trust? Do I look too desperate? You were all too cool for reviews, Joe. We swayed and grinded, wore sex appeal dispassionately. If we lined up for review, it was only half ironically. Oh, look, I'm doing that silly dance. Some frat boy joined the music up for a pop rap anthem with a dance all women knew. Every girl flicked and tossed her hair as the entered formation. Every eye that glanced my way told me that I had to join in. The singer was a black woman, so wasn't this my anthem? Fine. Fuck it. I was an adult now. I knew the words. Bitches can't check me like they overdraft. You got fees, bitch, please. I reigned like it's overgraph. Flip like a Lee on the beat like a hovercraft. Mocked an uppercut, hit you with the rocket bath. On my seam shit like mad math, last lap. Apocalypse coming fast with over this stats. My mothership looks down on your ass. You can't fuck with us. Side note. I want to keep working on that rhyme scheme, whatever. Back to the story. Cheers erupted and time contracted. Someone handed me a cup of punch. I swayed and sipped. Krista cut eyes and smiled, my mouth only. This white boy recited lyrics to me. That mixed boy leaned over me in the hallway. One of Krista's friends pulled me away by the arm. Someone handed me a cup of water. Someone handed me an IPA. Ew. Boys laughed. A girl teased. Someone touched my hair. I can't remember it all. I was water. I don't remember how I got home, but I'm sure it was fine. I was becoming a bad bitch, just like that one song. I need a refill, I told Dr. Winston. Dr. Winston's brow nodded, and I knew he would flunk me if he could. You have a monthly supply, correct? I can recommend a weekly supply instead. No, I think I need a higher dose. A higher dose would put you at risk of developing a dependency, so unfortunately, we cannot authorize that. Why do you think you need an increase? Have you had any issues you haven't shared? I stared at my fist as I balled them. Is everything all right, Noella? I lay on my bed wearing soundproof headphones, face down in a pillow. Krista pulled my headphones off. You can't back out now, the numbers will be off. I didn't know how to tell her that I couldn't do girls' night at the gay club on a regular dosage. I would be too aware of myself, the self that was 70% anxiety. Still, Krista pulled me to my feet and led me to a closet now full of clothes or friends assured me were better. Instead of saying no outright, I plotted escape if I pulled on my little black dress. Krista's friends soon arrived with lemon drops and tequila shots, and soon we were sizing up the crowd at Club VIP, deciding which 5 we preferred of the multi-room dance club. I slipped back from the huddle, unnoticed. It helped that I was usually quiet, that my outfit melted in with the darkness, that they were joyfully tipsy while I was sober and separate from the world. I wandered away from the girls and the pop and the belly dancing cool kids into a main room with a stage of genderless, genderful, gender-free go-go dancers. Near the far wall, a drag dominatrix headed downstairs into a subterranean industrial room. I turned the corner and was hit by a wave of funky, dancey electronic music coming from a black and neon room of breakdancers and ravers. Here were the girls wearing full goth monotone, the hyperpop boys with anime hair, the jobby bee girls doing baggy jean windmills, the pale, bald, elfin semi-girls wearing lingerie with overalls. There was a dance circle here, everyone cheering a duo of black-suited pop rockers who looked like straight-A math majors. The song playing was both soulful and electric, female vocals backed by a robot chorus. Rise like a phoenix, fire, fire, rise like a phoenix, fire, higher, higher, rise like a phoenix, fire, fire, fire on the dance floor every night. I remember this song. I used to stay up late listening to the weird stations on the radio, and they would play stuff like this: French touch, electro house, IDM, breakbeat, and all of that. I'd never seen a review of any of those genres, even though they're all so danceable. Everyone around me did their own thing, taking a turn in the circle, grooving on their own, moving just enough to cheer on others. Movement spread easily here. One person started jumping, and so did their friend, and soon a corner of the crowd was a waveform bouncing to the 4/4 beat. I jumped too, high up the anonymity of a crowded room. Rise like a phoenix, fire, fire, so bright, my light, alive tonight, all right. There was a person in the crowd who looked like Jamal. My eyes were drawn to them, stupid as that was. I turned away to better ignore them, still stomping and jamming and jumping. I flew up and apart like the drops of the ocean spray, then rejoined the water of the crowd. I wanted to have the right amount of ego, just enough to brave the dance circle. Hey, Jamal's lookalike had pushed through the crowd to reach me and was clearly not a lookalike. That lookalike, that lopsided smile was no copy. I didn't see you as the one night stand type. You're the one who gave me the fake number. Huh? He looked honestly confused. I pulled out my cell phone to show him my contact list, and his response was, fuck. How did I mistype my own number? How did you? Then I was laughing, he was laughing, and we danced, everything more fun than sexy. Thank you for being open with me, Dr. Winston said. No problem. I nodded, holding a smile. Holding an awkward smile. I still couldn't hold eye contact, but Jamal taught me this trick of looking at the nose, mouth, or brow instead. I continued. Of course, I'm not naive enough to think a romantic relationship can heal me. But isn't it a good start? Mr. Winston began quietly. A star? So I echoed his melody. Just a star, because I don't believe romance will save me, but maybe, Dr. Wilson, it could help you grow. Me, I won't believe one man can save me, but maybe, Dr. Wilson, he could help you know. Me, since I don't believe in much, not even love, not even me, that somewhere out there, there's a better, true way to be. Okay, and
Oh, Lord, that was so delightful. I don't think I've ever been so motivated to dance while hearing a story. That was wonderful. And thank you so much for for letting Noella have a happy ending, for letting her get there. Because I was really pulling for that to happen. I'm so happy.
thank you for having me. I wrote this for story hour because my stories normally run long.
Oh, that was so kind of you. Well, I hope that you can come back someday and tell us where you've had it printed, because that's going to happen. And give me the title one more time.
Oh, choreography in a pill.
Choreography in a pill?
Yeah.
Pill, okay. Oh, that was beautiful. I loved it. And this was amazing. We just had 2 story hour debuts. People have come in, and one of the stories has never been heard before, and yet they went together so beautifully, didn't they? These stories full of dancing and taking chances and opening up to possibility and love. Ah, thank you both so much. Well, the good news is nobody has to try to beat that next week, because next week Daniel and I will both be out. So there will be no story hour the first week in April. So everybody behave. We'll be back on April 10th with Tashan Mehta and D.A. Shaolin Spires. So that will also be a wonderful evening. I always recommend checking Story Hour 2020, the day of the reading, to see if there are any changes, because it'll be there and on Story Hour on Blue Sky, where those are the main places we make announcements. And storyhour2020.com also has a little calendar, so you can see who else is coming up and find out what Wednesdays you absolutely have to be there live to enjoy the chat and the Zoom. And you can also scroll back and click through to find any story hours you may have missed, or watch this one a few more times. Seems like it would be a fun thing to do, doesn't it? And you can also do that just on Facebook on the Story Hour page. Thank you so much, Ben Francisco, Maya Beck. Thank you both so much for a truly wonderful evening of stories. Thank you also to my co-host, Daniel Marcus, without whom literally none of us would be here. And thank you, all of you here in the Zoom tonight, all of you on Facebook, all of you watching on Facebook sometime in the future, because as long as we all come together to watch these stories, we're all in the same story out. Good night.